So we're rolling camera. We've got sound. What possessed me to do that? I have no idea, but welcome once again, everybody, to Friday night's LA Cinema Quiz. I can't believe that the quiz now has been running for 10 weeks now during the government lockdown period. So this is the 10th edition of the quiz. Originally, the quizzes were on the LA Cinema Facebook channel, and we decided within about 5 weeks of doing those to set up a YouTube channel. So we've been running the quizzes on the LA Cinema channel here on YouTube for probably about 5-6 weeks now. Thank you to everybody that's taken part, and thank you to everyone that's subscribed. I think now we've got in the region of about 144 subscribers. So thank you kindly for everybody that's liked and subscribed to the channel. Before we begin tonight's quiz, we've got the live chat window. I've announced before going live on air the rounds for this evening, 5 rounds, 50 questions. But yeah, if you could all introduce yourselves, let me know how you're doing, where you're from, and if you've played the quiz before. Thanks for everybody that's joined us so far. As I said, introduce yourselves, and in a minute, within the next 5 minutes, we'll start this week's edition of the quiz. So I've had quite a reasonably good week this week. The weather's been absolutely stunning here in Bristol. It's just been so sunny, and I've spent most of the time sat in the garden amusing my children and amusing myself, and I've managed to catch the sun as well. And I don't normally drink when we do these quizzes on a Friday night, but I thought I'd join you for a glass of wine. Hopefully you've got an alcoholic beverage, or maybe not an alcoholic beverage, but maybe a wine, a beer, cider, a tea, or a coffee. Okay, so Zach Bowen, thanks again for taking part. And Andy Rouse, back again, Team Rouse. Thanks, Zach, for some of the promotion you've been doing. I noticed you put something out, I don't know if it was today or within the last couple of days, promoting the quiz, so thanks for that. Joe Adams just logged in from Scotland. And we've got a regular again. Thank you to Mr. Baseheart, a big cinema buff. Philip Rouse, I'd imagine a relative to Andy. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go through the questions for this evening. Give me a shout out if this is the first time you've played the LA Cinema Quiz, and also give me a shout out if you played before. Okay, Richard here, socially distanced from Amanda. That's Mr. Harlequin 2316. Kieran Nicholson, another regular player. And we've got the Burns family from Airdrie up in Scotland. Thanks again. Gail Rogers as well. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Harlequin played last week. Okay, so I'll cut to the chase and just tell you the rounds for this week. So it's 5 rounds, 50 questions. I'll try and read the questions fairly slowly, and I'll repeat them. And at the end, I'll give out all the answers. So the big reveal, here are the topics for this week. So round 1, all of these were requests from people that commented last week for rounds that they would like to see for the quiz. So round number 1, we're going to take a director. Last week was one of my favorites, Stanley Kubrick. This week we're doing Ridley Scott movies for round 1. Number 2, we're bringing back the famous movie props round. We did that one a couple of weeks ago. Another request for round 3, Brat Pack movies from the 1980s. Round number 4, famous lines, or shall I say movie quotes again. And then the last round, the penultimate one, round number 5, is the the thrillers genre, which somebody recommended last week. So what I was going to do at the beginning of the quiz, before we go through the questions, was just to give some recommendations of some films that I've watched this week and to ask you. I was also at the end going to ask you to tell me your favorite Ridley Scott movie and for what reason, because Ridley Scott is the theme for round number 1. So I'll be asking you that later on tonight. So first of all, some recommendations and films that I bought during the week. So as I mentioned weeks ago, I'm a hoarder. I'm a big film fan, as you can see from one of my shelves here with my DVDs and Blu-rays and box sets. I'm always buying films, whether it's on Amazon or eBay or whatever, HMV. So here's a few little purchases from this week, mainly films that I've not seen before. So the first one was an eBay purchase. Never seen this film, so if anyone has, give me a shout out and tell me what it's like. I do like Malcolm McDowell, the British actor, particularly the films he made back in the 70s, which was kind of his peak decade. So I picked up this war film called Aces High with McDowell in the lead role. Never seen this. It also stars Christopher Plummer, who's always very good, particularly in his older age. Simon Ward, and it's directed by Jack Gold. Never seen this film. I don't know if anyone has. Aces High. That was my first purchase for this week, following the Malcolm McDowell trend. My second one was Scorsese. So this is a new release from Criterion, which is a collection of films that I've highly recommended in the last couple of weeks. And they've just released this, Martin Scorsese, the early short films he made, mainly when he was at New York Film School. They date back from the 60s or the late 1960s to the 1970s, before he became a household name in Hollywood cinema. And the films, if you're interested, are Italian American, 1974, American Boy from 78, The Big Shave, which is a good one, 1967, It's Not You, Murray, 1964, and What's a Nice Girl Like You Doing in a Place Like This. So that's the Scorsese Shorts collection. I used to have that one on VHS back in the day. And lastly, a good friend of mine that participates in the quiz from time to time, goes by the name of Pixel Bites, Jamie, keeps telling me to watch this film, and I constantly let him down. I've never seen Good Will Hunting. I've heard lots of things about it. I know it won some Oscars back in the late 90s. He tells me it's one of his favorite films, and I need to see this film. I've never seen it, shame to say. So that was my last purchase of this week. So I haven't seen that many films or content this week before we move on to the quiz. I've only watched 2 films. I explained earlier on in the week that I was looking to do all the Stanley Kubrick films. I've got one left to do, which I've never seen, Spartacus. And the reason I haven't done it is probably because of the duration of 3.5 hours. So I decided this week to watch his debut film, which I managed to pick up on a DVD release, part of the Masters of Cinema collection, Fear and Desire, which I believe was released in 1953. It just runs over 60 minutes. It's Kubrick's debut film about soldiers trying to escape the enemy front line and confronting their fear and desires. One of the quiz participants tonight told me this wasn't a particularly good film, and I have to be honest, I was very disappointed with this. For me, it's Kubrick's weakest film, but I will cut him some slack. This was the first film he made. It was self-financed, I think, a lot of the money, so it was shot on a relatively low budget, and obviously he was learning the trades of filmmaking before he went on to make some of those great films later on in his career. There's some good moments, some good photography, but overall, I agree with Mr. Baseheart. This is probably Kubrick's weakest film by quite a long way, but worth a watch if you're a Kubrick completist. Okay, so later on I'll be recommending another film that I've watched for this week, but we'll move on and we'll start the quiz. Good luck to everyone. And all I'll say is don't write the answers in the live chat window, because obviously everyone will see those. And I'll go through the answers at the end. Good luck. Yeah, Andy, yeah, I've never seen Spartacus. I know it's one of those regular films that comes on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Yeah, never seen it. Shame to say. So everyone ready for round one? Are there many Ridley Scott fans of the British director? So round number one, 10 questions on the director Ridley Scott. Good luck, everyone. So question number one, Ridley Scott started his career in advertising before working on major features. He directed a famous advertisement for which American company, which was inspired by George Orwell's novel 1984. The commercial was broadcast in that year. So I'll read that question back, starting off with number one, round number one. So Ridley Scott started his career in advertising before working on major feature films. He directed a famous advertisement for which American company, which was inspired by George Orwell's novel 1985. So this was an advert, very good advert, where they're promoting a product. Name the product. And if you've never seen this ad, at the end of the quiz, go back and watch it. It's absolutely superb. Really clever advertisement from the 1980s. Question number two. So Ridley Scott's debut feature was released in 1977 and is an acclaimed war drama starring Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, and Albert Finney. But name the film. So that one's number two. I'll have a quick swig of water. So on Ridley Scott, the director, British director, his debut film was released in 1977. It was an acclaimed war drama with Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, and Albert Finney in the starring roles. But can you name the film? That is number two. So number three, we got a couple of answers for this one. For question three on Ridley Scott. So Scott has received 3 Best Director Academy Award nominations, but he's yet to win the Best Director Oscar. But I want you to name all 3 films that he's been nominated for. I'll repeat that in just a minute. And I'll repeat any questions at the end of the round if you miss any. So number 3, Scott has received 3 Best Director Academy Award nominations, but he's yet to win the Best Director Oscar. But name all 3 films he's been nominated for. So name the films. 3 films in total. Moving on to 4, there's two answers to this one. So question 4, 2 answers. I want you to name the American actor who was deleted and replaced in Scott's 2017 film, All the Money in the World. For a bonus point, name the actor who replaced him in the role of J. Paul Getty and also received the Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination. So there's 2 answers to this question. It's in relation to All the Money in the World, the Scott film. So I want you to name the American actor who was deleted from the film and replaced. And for an additional bonus point, name the actor who replaced him in the role of J. Paul Getty and also received a Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination. That one is number 4. Okay, so moving on to 5 now, round 1, Ridley Scott films. So I want you to name this 2007 Ridley Scott movie? I'll give you a little description. An outcast New York City cop is charged with bringing down Harlem drug lord Frank Lucas. The film stars Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in the leading roles. So that one's number 5. So question 5, Ridley Scott round. So I want you to name this 2007 Ridley Scott movie. An outcast New York City cop is charged with bringing down Harlem drug lord Frank Lucas, and the film co-stars Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in the leading roles. Moving on now to another question with 2 answers. One of Scott's most famous films, Blade Runner now. So Scott's 1982 sci-fi masterwork Blade Runner is based on a novel by which author? For a bonus point, tell me the name of the composer who produced the brilliant score. So Blade Runner is based on a novel, like many films. Can you tell me the name of the novelist? And for the bonus point, can you tell me the name of the composer who did the soundtrack for the film? So 2 answers for question 6, and a point for each. Just take a swig of water. Okay, so a lesser known Ridley Scott film. Name the 1996 Ridley Scott movie about teenage boys who discover discipline and camaraderie on an ill-fated sailing voyage. Actor Jeff Bridges plays the lead role as Sheldon Skipper. So this was a film released in 1996. It's about teenage boys who discover discipline and camaraderie on an ill-fated sailing voyage. Jeff Bridges plays the lead role as Sheldon Skipper. Tell me the name of the film. So a couple more left for this round. Each round will be 10 questions altogether. Total of 50 questions overall. So question number 8. Can you name the British actor who plays the evil villain Darkness in Ridley Scott's 1985 fantasy adventure called Legend, which starred a young Tom Cruise? So yeah, a Ridley Scott film from 1985. It was called Legend. But can you tell me the British actor who plays the evil villain Darkness in the film? That one's number 8. And we move on to the last 2, 9 and 10. Yeah, no problem, Gail. I'll read back 4 in just a minute. And I'll ask all the other players if there's any they've missed. Yeah, so number 9, one answer to this one. Name Ridley's famous brother who died in 2012 and was also a box office Hollywood director. Responsible for making the films Top Gun, True Romance, Crimson Tide, and The Hunger, and Beverly Hills Cop 2. So yeah, Ridley Scott had a famous brother who was, again, very successful as a top-notch Hollywood director. He made the films Top Gun, True Romance, and Crimson Tide, The Hunger, and Beverly Hills Cop 2. But give me the name of his Christian name. That one is number 9. And lastly, a tricky one for number 10. To end the first round, Ridley Scott directed films. I want you to name the American actor who plays Captain Dallas on the space tug Nostromo in Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien. So number 10, name the American actor who plays Captain Dallas in Ridley Scott's 1979 Alien. That's all 10 questions. I think Gail said she missed question number 4, so I'll quickly recap that one for the first round. Okay, so number 4, it was 2 answers to this one. So 2 parts, a point for each. I want you to name the American actor who was deleted and replaced in his role in Scott's 2017 film All the Money in the World? For a bonus point, name the actor who replaced him in the role of J. Paul Getty. He also received the Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination for his performance in the film. Okay, so with this round, how did everyone feel they got on? Are they confident? You maybe got a full 10, including the bonus points. And does anyone need any questions repeating for the first round? How did everyone feel they did with this one? Any Ridley Scott fans in particular? Because later on I'll be asking your favourite Ridley Scott films. Certainly a big list to go through. He's made a hell of a lot of films and had a very successful film career. Quite an impressive CV. Some good ones in there and sometimes a little bit of a mixed bag. He's done some bad ones as well, but haven't they all? Yeah, Joe. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so question 3, I can read that one back. I can do 2. So question 2, Zach Bowen's confident he got 5 for this one. Okay, so question 2, let's go back to that one. Okay, number 2. Okay, so question 2 was Ridley Scott's debut feature was released in 1977. It's an acclaimed war drama starring Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, and Albert Finney, but name the film. And number 3, there was 3 answers to this one, so a point for each. So Scott has received 3 Best Director Academy Award nominations, but he's yet to win the Best Director Oscar. But name all 3 films that he's been nominated for. That was question 3. Anyone else need any repeating? How do you think you all got on for this round? Anyone confident that they got a particular high score on this one? How did you all fare? Shirley Cornish says she doesn't know not particularly knowledgeable on Ridley Scott. Christopher's confident. Oh, my back. Yeah, that's my fault. So I sit in my lounge and my furniture, my comfy sofa's in front of me, so I don't sit on that one. And I use a stool normally, and it does my back in. So today I'm using some garden furniture, and it's a lot better. Thank you. 8 for Kieran, quite confident. Yeah, Ridley Scott's a very prolific name in filmmaking. I wouldn't say he's one of my favourite directors, but I'll reveal my favourite Ridley Scott film later on, and I'll ask you yours. Okay, so we'll move on to round number 2. 10 questions again. And as I said at the beginning, 5 rounds tonight. Answers will be read back at the end. All good fun, just to test your film knowledge. Keep everyone sane during the lockdown. Okay, so we're going to bring back the famous movie props round. Excuse me. This was a suggestion from a good friend of mine who sometimes plays the quiz. I was hoping he was going to sign on tonight, but he might be on childhood duties. I thought this was a nice round. So all I do is I basically describe a prop from a film, and all you need to do is name the film. Okay, this one was quite popular when we did it about 2 weeks ago. So let's see how we get on. Number 1, movie props, round number 2. So a rocking machine penis sculpture from a controversial 1970s movie. So this is a great scene, actually, probably one of the funniest in the movie. And I'm a big fan of this film, one of my favorites. It's a rocking machine penis sculpture from a controversial 1970s movie. That is number 1. Number 2 is another film from the 1970s decade, but the prop is a Smith & Wesson Magnum 44. So this is a weapon, a gun. It's from a iconic film from the 70s decade, and it's a Smith & Wesson Magnum 44. That is number 2. Number 3, this is tricky, and I think if I didn't give the decade it was released, it'd be even harder. Number 3 is Nasal Spray from a classic comedy released in 1960. Nasal Spray from a classic comedy film released way back in 1960. And I know someone playing the quiz tonight, this is one of their favourite films. And I can understand why. It's brilliantly written. Number 4 now. Number 4 is a harmonica played by a cowboy in an intense opening from a 1968 Western. So this is such an iconic scene that opens a film, a Western, but the prop is a harmonica. It's played by a cowboy in an intense opening sequence from a 1968 Western. That one's number 4. Number 5, we go from a Western to a sci-fi film. Question 5 is Gort's helmet and laser ray from a 1950s famous sci-fi movie. So number 5 again, it's Gort's helmet and laser ray from a 1950s famous science fiction movie. Number 6, this one's pretty difficult. The Clock from a classic 1952 Western. So number 6, the prop in the film is a clock, and it's from a classic 1952 Western. Couple more to go, but number 7, I think you'll all probably get this one. A bullwhip from a classic adventure film released in 1981. So classic film released in the year I was born, 1981. Crikey, I'm 40 next year. It's not good. But it's a bullwhip is the prop from a classic adventure film released in 1981. Number 8, this is another one I'd imagine you'll all get. The prop is a bonsai tree from a cherished 1984 movie. So question number 8 is a bonsai tree from a cherished 1984 movie. 2 to go. So we're round number 2, 10 questions on this one, and it's props used in famous films. Number 9, this is an iconic scene. A clay pot on a spinning pottery wheel from a box office smash from 1990. Well, this was a massive film when it was released. I can remember it well. It was a massive box office smash. But the prop itself is a clay pot on a spinning pottery wheel from a box office smash from 1990. And the final one, number 10. So number 10 is a blue box in Rita's purse from a brilliant surreal neo-noir mystery movie released in 2001. So the final one, number 10, the prop in the film is a blue box in Rita's purse from a brilliant surreal neo-noir mystery movie which was released in 2001. So that's the final questions, round number 2. There's 10 there. Anyone need any repeating for this particular round? How do you feel about this one? I quite like this round. I think it's quite clever. It seemed to go down well when we did it about a fortnight ago. So thumbs up to Jamie on this one. I really like this round. It's good. But how did you fare with this one? Do you like this round? Could we maybe bring it back again? And how did you think you did with your scores for this one? A couple of tricky ones in there. 6, yeah, 6 is pretty good. Philip likes the round. Yeah, I think it's quite a nice one. Out of interest, everyone, doing the quiz this evening, Are you all sat down having a beer or a drink? What are you up to? Funny enough, last night I'm not a smoker. I've never smoked cigarettes, but in my 20s I used to like smoking a cigar. I used to like smoking a Castella, um, or Villager, the maker of the cigar, and I used to enjoy them in the summer. And I haven't smoked a cigar for about 10 years. I just decided to sit outside with a beer and have a cigar, and it was one of the nicest moments I've had during the lockdown. I really enjoyed just sitting outside. It was warm, about 10 o'clock at night, and just looking at the view. Sometimes the simple things are sometimes the nicest in life, as silly as that sounds. Yeah, it's a tough round. Yeah, plenty of beers. Scale. Zach's confident, likes the round, enjoying it so far. Thanks. That's the main thing, you know. I'm really pleased that we've got an audience for this, and it's nice to see new people and the same people coming back. I really appreciate it, and it gives me something to look forward to on a Friday. I've been furloughed from work, work as a manager for a big cinema chain, and I've been off since late March. We're looking maybe to come back in July. We're not sure as yet, but this kind of gives me keeps my mind active, and I've really enjoyed it. Wine and Doritos, plus the dips. Okay, so we'll move on to round number three. And what is round number three? Okay, so someone last week asked if we could do a round on Brat Pack movies from the 1980s. Well, I got to be honest, I haven't seen many of these films, and I didn't really know a lot about the Brat Pack films. So probably tonight, I would say this is the trickiest round. 10 questions again, and there was a lot of these questions I didn't have the foggiest idea, and films I've never ever seen. So I might check a few of them out and get more knowledgeable about it. Okay, so Brat Pack movies, a decade that everybody seems to be quite fond of, the 1980s, particularly a lot of the music that stood the test of time. So this is Brat Pack movies, the 1980s. Okay, so number one, which New York City journalist coined the phrase the Brat Pack from a 1985 New York Magazine cover story? So this is probably the hardest question of the night. I didn't know this at all. I didn't know that a journalist coined the phrase, almost kind of invented this group, this movement. But which New York City journalist coined the phrase the Brat Pack for a 1985 New York Magazine cover story? That is number one. So you just need to name the journalist. Apparently he was covering a story with Emilio Estevez. Well, that's just given one of the answers away, me and my big mouth, for later. And apparently he coined the phrase that these group of actors that have appeared in the same films and came up with a name, but name the journalist. Okay, slightly simpler one, this one. Name this Brat Pack movie from 1985, and I'll give you a description. Directed by Joel Schumacher, it's about a group of friends just out of college who struggle with adulthood. So this is probably one of the most iconic Brat Pack movies, released back in 1985, directed by Joel Schumacher, and it's about a group of friends just out of college who struggle with adulthood. That is number two. I'll have a quick swig of water. Number three now. So we're round number three. Okay, so Brat Pack member Rob Lowe was involved in a sex scandal when a videotape was leaked of him having sex with a 16-year-old he met in a nightclub. But name the year this occurred. So I want you to tell me the year. This was kind of an incident a scandal that almost kind of ruined Lowe's career. It did for a number of years, and then he made a comeback in a lot of American TV serials. But Brat Pack member Rob Lowe was involved in a sex scandal when a videotape was leaked of him having sex with a 16-year-old he met in a nightclub. But name the year this occurred. So name the year. So Rob Lowe, the actor. Okay, so number 4, there's a few answers to this one. 8 answers for this one. I've already given away 2, if you were listening. So question number 4, there's 8 core members considered to make up the Brat Pack. So that's 8 actors and actresses that make up the Brat Pack. Can you name them all? A point for each. There's 8 core members considered to make up the Brat Pack. Can you name them all? Actors and actresses. And I've already given away 2 of those names so far. So another tricky question. So number 4, there are 8 core members considered to make up the Brat Pack. Can you name them all? I'll give you a little time to think about that one. That's a tricky one. Number 5 is a lot simpler. So a couple of tricky questions in this round. Okay, so number 5, halfway through the round, I want you to name the director and writer of the Brat Pack movie, The Breakfast Club. So this is back in 1985, probably the most popular film, The Breakfast Club. But can you tell me the name of the director and the writer who made the film? And I believe he passed away a couple of years ago. I think I'm right on that. So a famous Brat Pack film, going back to 1985, called The Breakfast Club. You probably all know it. But name the director and the writer. Number 6 now, one answer to this one. So I want you to name this Brat Pack comedy romance released in 1984, and I'm going to give you a brief description. So it's a girl's 16th birthday becomes anything but special as she suffers from every embarrassment possible. So this is a Brat Pack comedy film released in 1984. A girl's 16th birthday becomes anything but special as she suffers from every embarrassment possible. So released from 1984, another Brat Pack vehicle, comedy one on this occasion. Number 7, we're going to go for a music question. So I want you to tell me the name of the American female songwriter and performer who sung the song Left of Center from the Brat Pack movie Pretty in Pink. So this is a really good song, and I really rate this artist. I've got a couple of her albums. But which American female songwriter and performer sung the song Left of Center from the movie Pretty in Pink? That one's number 7. Couple more left. Number 8 now. Another music question. Which great American guitarist and composer, famous for his music soundtrack for Wim Wenders' Paris, Texas, was responsible for the music score for the 1986 Brat Pack crime drama Blue City? That one's number 8. Excuse me. So number 8 again. We're on the theme of music again. Which American guitarist and composer, famous for his music soundtrack for Paris, Texas, was responsible for the music score for the 1986 crime drama Blue City? So this is another film which is coined as a Brat Pack movie, but name the composer of the music for the film. Number 9, 2 to go. So the first Brat Pack movie is supposedly a 1983 crime drama directed by Francis Ford Coppola and about the rivalry between 2 gangs. They're called the Poor Greasers and the Rich Sox. But can you name the film? So the first Brat Pack movie, or was coined the first one, is a 1983 crime drama directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And it's about the rivalry between two gangs, the Poor Greasers and the Rich Sox. But for 1 point, can you tell me the name of the film? That one is number 9. And lastly, probably the easiest question of the round, number 10. Which Scottish group had a massive hit with the song Don't You Forget About Me, which featured in 1985's The Breakfast Club? So this was a really good pop single. I like the song, and always gives me a bit of a lift when I hear this on the radio. You kind of crank up the volume. Good song. Which Scottish group had a massive hit with the song Don't You Forget About Me, which featured in 1985's The Breakfast Club? Okay, so that was all 10. How did we get on? I thought this was quite a hard round, in all honesty. I didn't know a great deal about these Brat Pack films. I've not even seen a lot of them. Any fans of those movies? They're quite nostalgic. Do they bring back memories of old times growing up, adolescence? How did you fare for this round? Any fans of that particular franchise or vehicle of films? How did you fare? Anyone confident that they might have got full marks for this round? Anyone confident that they got all 10 questions? Zach's confident that you got a 10. Are you a big fan of that? The 1980s decade then, and these kind of films? Okay. Mr. Harlequin says nope. Yeah, I don't know a lot about these films at all. Maybe my task is to go away and check a few of them out and see if they've stood the test of time over 30 years. Be interested to see if they've aged, if they dated badly. Okay, Amanda likes those films. We're going to take a little break with the quiz. We'll do rounds 4 and 5 in just a minute. But I was going to talk about just another film that I've watched during the week. Find out from you, guys and girls, if you've seen this particular film, if you'd recommend it yourself. Okay, so over the course of the last few weeks, I've mentioned time and time again what a big fan I am of Robert De Niro. He's probably my favourite actor. He kind of was a big influence on me as a young lad going through school. I was interested in acting, and I was watching all these films like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, King of Comedy, all the great ones when I was in kind of my late teens up until my 20s. And I've been bitterly disappointed that for a period of 20 years, for me, De Niro hasn't made many great films since maybe Michael Mann's Heat and Scorsese's Casino. There's not many De Niro films I haven't seen, particularly from the early formative years. But there was one I hadn't seen, which was an early one before he became a household name, which I heard was very good. As a baseball film. This came out just before Mean Streets, Scorsese's film with De Niro and Keitel, came out, and De Niro kind of became this big household prolific name that everybody was raving about, one of the greatest actors of his generation. This is a film called Bang the Drum Slowly. It's a baseball film, and there's so many good baseball films. It's not a sport I'm kind of into, and I suppose none of us are if we're not American because we don't see it televised, but there's some good baseball films. And I recommend this one. It's great. The main actor is a guy called Michael Mariatti, who had quite a successful TV career in America in the 70s and 80s. And he gives probably the best performance, in fairness, of the film. It's basically about two baseball players in the same team. Mariatti plays, what do they call him? The bowler, the pitcher. He's a pitcher in the team, very good. He's quite a confident guy, very business savvy. And one of his comrades, played by De Niro, is a catcher, and he's not particularly one of the best players or most dynamic players in the team, but he's diagnosed with a terminal illness. And the Moriarty character decides to look out for his colleague and just decides that the team won't decide to sell him or not pick him in regular competition. And it's basically just a tale of friendship. It's a really, really good film. It's called Bang the Drum Slowly, a baseball film about friendship and tragedy. Really recommend it. It's good. It's only about 97 minutes, but it's a very good film. I put it down as one of the good baseball films alongside Bull Durham and Field of Dreams and Robert Redford in The Natural. Someone's made me very, very jealous, saying they met De Niro in Vegas. Did you get to speak to him? Did you get an autograph? I know he can be quite elusive in interviews, and as a young man went through a stage where he was very, very difficult in an interview situation, and you couldn't seem to get anything from him, and he still looks quite uncomfortable. He's mellowed a bit during the years. Yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle. So many films from the 2000s that were just, I didn't like when he went down that comedy route. In the 80s, he made some great comedies like Midnight Run, King of Comedy, dark comedy. He did some good stuff, but not in the 2000s. Interestingly, De Niro did a couple of public performances with a company that put on events, these meet and greets where they do an interview, a Q&A, and you get to meet them afterwards. And I looked into it, and it was a really expensive evening. I think to get a decent seat to watch the Q&A and get a photograph with De Niro, and you just kind of say hello and that's it, it cost something like in the region of 500 quid. And I was tempted to do it. And interestingly, my mum said, I think it'd be the biggest mistake you'll ever make. It's a lot of money, and I think you'll be bitterly disappointed. So I opted not to, and maybe in hindsight, it might be a wise decision. They say never meet your heroes, and maybe that was a good reason. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I think he probably is a really nice guy. I think part of me almost thinks he's a bit insecure about his status. He's such an icon, and maybe he feels uncomfortable about what what that entails. I don't know. And the press are never the most easiest, are they? They don't give people any privacy. But yeah, if you want to check out an early De Niro film, Bang the Drum Slowly is a nice little film. It's really good, and you can see how he progressed from becoming one of the great icons in Hollywood cinema. Okay, so we'll move on in just a sec. We've got 2 final rounds to do, and I'm going to ask you a couple of things at the end as well. A couple of your film recommendations, get you involved. So round number 4, we've brought back another popular round. This one is movie quotes. So these are famous lines from films. All you need to do is tell me what film the line comes from. That's all. So it's one answer for all 10 questions. I'm going to have a little swig of wine if that's acceptable. And we'll move on. I just can't believe this has been going on for 10 weeks now. During the lockdown, it's just flown by the 10 weeks. Okay, so number 1, the line from the film is, and a famous line, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. So question number 1, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Number 2 now, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. So number 2, the line from the film is, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Number 3 now. This is an older film. Made it, Ma. top of the world. Number 3, made it, ma, top of the world. I'd wish I had a kind of an actor or voiceover artist doing these and putting on a bit of an accent. Certainly do a better job. Number 4, the census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver and some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Number 4 again. So this is a line from a famous Hollywood movie. Just tell me the name of the film. A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Number 5 now. 10 questions again in this round. A nice short one. I bet you'll all get this. Show me the money. So number 5 is show me the money. What film does that line feature in? Show me the money. Number 6 now. This is an iconic line from the film. I want to be alone. So number 6, I want to be alone. Number 7, Houston, we have a problem. Number 7 again, Houston, we have a problem. Couple more left now. So number 8. I put the years as the answers to these, but you don't need to name the years. That's quite tricky. Just the films is fine. So question number 8. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Number 9. Nice and short, nice and simple. They're here. Number 9. They're here. And number 10, the final one. Gentlemen, you can fight in here. Sorry, I'll start again. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. Number 10 again. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. So that is all 10 questions. Anybody need a recap on any of these at all? So it's famous lines from films. We've done this one for a couple of weeks. What do people think of this round? Do you want this one brought back maybe in future? How do you think you got on with those lines? I think there were some quite iconic ones in there, so I don't think they're particularly hard, but for me it's easy because I write the questions and I guess I know the answers. But how did you get on with this one overall? A good round for Kieran Nicholson. Fairly confident. That's good. How did everyone else fare for this one? Zach Bowen confident. A good round for him. He thinks he got 8. Mr. Baseheart with a 9. Kieran again saying he did good for the round. He thinks he scores an 8. Christopher Blackett also confident. Yeah, Shirley wants this one brought back. She likes this round. Doing well on it. Okay, so Matt Stock. Yeah, of course, Matt. Yeah, I can repeat 5 and 6. If anyone else needs any repeated, just shout them out. Not a problem at all. Okay, so number 5 was show me the money was number 5. Show me the money, question number 5. And number 6, such an iconic line from a classic Hollywood film, I want to be alone. I can hear her say it in my head now, I want to be alone. Anyone else need any repeating from that round? Amanda Harris, she likes this round. I think she did pretty well. I think Amanda's done a few of these quizzes now, haven't you? Thanks again. Thanks for playing on a regular basis. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the final round in just a minute. Round number 5. Glad you like that round. I still like the movie props, and the other one I like is the taglines, the movie taglines from the posters. I always think that one goes down a bit of a treat. No, no problem. I enjoy films. I love cinema. I work in a cinema. I help out with a community cinema, which is LA Cinema in Long Ashton Village, in Somerset and Bristol, and um, I've done all sorts of film stuff in the past. I used to run events, used to do a lot of short film events some years ago under the name of Cineme in Bristol, which is still running. I was doing that for 10 years, getting in guests to do Q&As. It was all good fun. Okay, so final round. So round number 5, somebody last week, I don't think it's with us this week, sadly not, but they asked for a few rounds to be added. We've done some genres over the past. We did crime films. We did horrors. I think that was last week. This week, we're going to do thrillers for round 5. 10 questions on the genre. So all thriller films, thrillers. Okay, so number 1. You all ready? So number 1, name this classic 1974 thriller. Okay, a little description. The film is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and it stars Gene Hackman as a paranoid surveillance expert who suspects that a couple he is spying on will be murdered. So this is a great film, one of the best from the 70s in my view. I think it was even on telly a couple of weeks ago. It came out in 74. It's categorized as a thriller. It is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, another great. Stars Gene Hackman, another great. And it's about a paranoid surveillance expert who suspects that a couple he is spying on will be murdered. But name the film. 1974. Number 2, an actor now. Name the iconic Hollywood actor who plays a wheelchair. So let me start again. Wine doesn't help. Name the iconic Hollywood actor who plays a wheelchair-bound photographer who spies on his neighbors from an apartment window in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. So I want you to tell me the name of the actor. Famous Hollywood actor from the star system back in the day. He plays a wheelchair-bound photographer who spies on his neighbors from an apartment window in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. Who is he? Number 3 now, we go for something a little bit more contemporary, but still quite some time ago. Turn the clock back about 30 years. Whose brilliant debut movie was the brilliant thriller Blood Simple, which was released in 1984? So I want you to tell me the directors. Who were the directors responsible for the brilliant thriller, kind of categorized as a modern day noir? It's called Blood Simple, and it came out in 1984, and it was their debut film. If you've not seen it, check it out. Google it, IMDb it. It's a cracking film. I haven't seen it for a long time. For me, one of their best. But who are the directors? Number 4, back to actors, the Hollywood star system. So for question 4, can you name the iconic Hollywood actor who played religious fanatic Harry Powell in Charles Laughton's 1955 thriller, The Night of the Hunter? So number 4, can you name the iconic Hollywood actor who played religious fanatic Harry Powell in Charles Laughton's 1955 thriller, The Night of the Hunter? That one's number 4. Halfway through the round with this one, number 5. And it's an actor again, so name the actor. So 5, name the iconic American vocalist who plays Major Bennett Marco in John Frankenheimer's 1962 political thriller, The Manchurian Candidate. So the clue is American vocalist. This was somebody who was known more as a singer, but did have quite a prolific acting career. But name the American vocalist and actor who plays Major Bennett Marco in John Frankenheimer's 1962 political thriller, The Manchurian Candidate. Number 6, probably the hardest question of the round. So Martin Scorsese directed the 1991 remake. But tell me who directed the 1962 version of Cape Fear? So I love the remake. I think it's one of the best remakes. But I also like the original. Both really good films. Martin Scorsese directed the remake. It was released in 91. Who directed the 1962 version? Okay, number 7. 7, I want you to tell me the name of the US actress films I'd take on a desert island. Chinatown is probably one I would take on a desert island. I think it's a tremendous film. I think the writing is incredible, and the acting, and the direction. But name the American actress who co-stars alongside Jack Nicholson. She plays Evelyn Mulwray in Roman Polanski's Chinatown. So name the actress. Number 8, this is probably the hardest question of the round. It relates more so to world cinema, but there was a remake, which is the clue. So number 8, name the acclaimed Dutch 1988 thriller by George Sluizer. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but which he remade in English in 1993. And it's about a young woman called Saskia who was abducted on vacation with her partner Rex. If you tuned in for the quizzes, this is a film I spoke about a couple of weeks ago. I've not seen it, but it's one I bought. And I said at the beginning of the quiz, this is a film I've just purchased on DVD in the Criterion collection. So it's an acclaimed Dutch 1988 thriller directed by George Sluizer. It was remade by the same director in English in 93. And it's about a young woman called Saskia who was abducted on vacation with her partner Rex. But tell me the name of the film. I've heard it's a great film, but I've never seen it. It's on my shelf behind me. I need to watch it. Number 9 now, a bit more contemporary. I want you to name the acclaimed 2017 thriller directed by Lynn Ramsey, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix as a traumatized veteran who tracks missing girls for a living. Number 9. Name the acclaimed 2017 thriller directed by British director Lynn Ramsey, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix as a traumatized veteran who tracks down missing girls for a living. I've heard it's a very good film. I've not seen this one. And the last one, a director's name for this. So the final question, question 50 of the night, fifth round. Name the acclaimed director who made the 2013 thriller Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. He also directed Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and he's also done the new Dune movie, a remake of the David Lynch sci-fi film. So I want you to tell me the name of the director. An acclaimed director who made the 2013 thriller Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. He also directed Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and the new film Dune, which I believe, fingers crossed, is going to be released in December this year. And I think we're awaiting some new trailers for that one. I don't know if they've released a trailer yet. I think they've released some photographs from the film, some still images. But I think we still await a trailer for that one. So yeah, it was a recommendation, a suggestion around on the thriller genre. How did everyone get on with this one? Oh, the remake. I take it that's The Vanishing, is it? Oh, and I just gave away the answer there. Me and my big mouth. So how did everyone think they fared with this round? A good recommendation. It's always good to throw some genres in there. As I said previously, we've done horrors, we did crime films. Mr. Baseheart, really confident that he's got a 10 for this one. How did everyone else think they got on with this one? Zach Bowen, confident. 8 would be a good score. As I said, we'll read back the answers in just a minute. How did everyone else think about this round? Or add in any genre for a round for that matter? And how did you think you fared with your scores for this one? Kieran Nicholson, confident with a 7. As I said, we'll read back the answers to all 5 rounds in just a minute. And we'll see how you all got on. We had some really good scores last week, a lot of high scores. So it'd be interesting to see how everybody fared for this week. How did everyone find this overall? Was this a tricky quiz tonight, or overall did you find it easier than last week if you played? What's your overall opinion of the difficulty level for this week? How did everyone find this week? Pretty much all the rounds, all 5 rounds, were suggestions from one of the players or a couple of players from last week. So I just took their suggestions on board and added them for this week. For me, I think the Brat Pack ones were tricky. Amanda Harris, 8 for this round. Okay, so before we do the answers, I was going to ask you a couple of quick questions and recommendations, kind of throw suggestions out to you on things. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to ask you all is, how did you find out about the quiz? The reason I ask is we use Facebook, our Facebook page, the LA Cinema one, to post the details up. I've been doing a little bit of Facebook advertising, also Twitter posts, and we have put up some posters in the village and some flyers. But how did people hear about us? I'm just interested to find out. Just interested to find out how you found out about the quiz. So Zach Bowen saying Facebook. Yeah, I think I can imagine a lot of you would have found out mainly on our social media pages. So yeah, Gail saying Facebook. Someone saying about directors. Okay, some recommendations. Yeah, if you kindly, if you've got anyone who's interested in film, if you kindly just recommend the quiz, or if they want to take part. Or Lucy Hawkins, sister lives in Long Ashton. Great stuff. That's where we're based. Okay, the second thing I was gonna ask you was Zach Bowen last week said, why didn't you ask people their top films during lockdown? So I thought if we would choose 3 films that they've watched over the government lockdown period, if you had to choose 3 favourite films, which ones would you choose and why? Okay, so I've gone with 3 films that I've picked up on DVD and Blu-ray. So these are my 3 favourite films that I've watched during lockdown. The first one, which I mentioned some weeks ago, I'd never seen. I'd heard so much about it, but Network is one of my picks as my favourite during the lockdown. It's a Sidney Lumet film. Faye Dunaway, William Holden, Peter Finch, and Robert Duvall. Basically about a news anchorman that his ratings are low. He goes on air, basically saying he'll commit suicide on the air. And basically the network use that as an opportunity to try and increase their ratings. kind of an appropriate film to watch during lockdown, and kind of what's going on politically within the last decade. It's an excellent film. I really enjoy watching this film. It's brilliant. The acting is superb. Second one, for me, this was the highlight of the lockdown period. I'd heard so much about this Russian war film, and it's rated as one of the best World War II films ever made. It's very powerful, and I would say it's probably one of the best war films I've ever seen. Come and see. It's absolutely brilliant. I would state this as a masterwork. Incredible film. Was blown away. And the other film I was blown away by, which I'd never seen, a beautiful, stunning film. If I was studying filmmaking at a film school and they showed me this film, I would give up instantly, because I know I'd never make a film as good as this. Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. This for me was just such an incredible, beautiful piece of filmmaking. And I would say probably for me his greatest film, along with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, so your choices. So top 3 films or top films that you've watched in the 10 weeks during the lockdown period. So what have you gone for? Philip Roll's Heat. Well, Heat's one of my best favourite films of all time. I'm in total agreement with you. I saw it when it came out. I've seen it loads of times. I think it's just a tremendous film. Bicentennial Man, is that the Robin Williams one? I've not seen it. Robinson Crusoe mentioned. Minions. Yeah, my kids were watching that the other day. Terminator, I still like the first one the best. I mentioned that last week. Another one I really enjoyed during the lockdown, which I was surprised, was the Netflix-funded film with Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems. I thought that was a great film. Oh, Jojo Rabbit, yeah, recent release. An Irish film, 2019, Calm with the Horses. Jellyfish, a British film. I don't know much about that. Spies in Disguise. Yeah, I saw that at the cinema with my kids. Yeah, the Robin Williams. He was mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think. I mentioned Robin Williams, mainly in some of his serious roles like Awakenings and Dead Poets. Okay, and lastly, I was going to throw at you, we did a round on directors. We did Ridley Scott, a couple more films mentioned. Alita, that's, who did that one? I know the one because I remember it being shown in our cinema. It's not James Cameron, but someone like that. Darkest Hour, about Churchill and World War II. Extraction, that's a Netflix film, isn't it? Okay, my final question to you all, lastly. We did a round on director Ridley Scott for round number 1. Are there any Ridley Scott fans that tuned in this evening? What would your favourite Ridley Scott film be? If I had to choose one, it would be a toss-up between Alien and Blade Runner, but for me, Blade Runner is his best film by a long shot, and I don't think he's ever bettered that film. For me, it was just the perfect sci-fi film. I love that film, and I think the cinematography and that beautiful, stunning soundtrack, which was a question by Vangelis, it's just beautiful film. And that scene at the end with Rutger Hauer. What would people pick as their favourite Ridley Scott ones? He's made so many films. Yeah, a lot of people rate Thelma and Louise. The Comedian 95 saying Blade Runner's his best film. Yeah, I would agree. Kieran saying he agrees. I still prefer it much more than the sequel. I thought the Denis Villeneuve sequel was pretty good, but I didn't think it was a patch on the original. I thought it was far too long. Alien and Gladiator for Zach Bowen. Good choices. We'll we'll see what everybody else puts, if anyone else. Philip Rowell says Gladiator. It's the last film of Ollie Reed, wasn't it? As he was drinking the bar dry on Malta, wasn't he? Or I do miss Oliver Reed. He was a character. You don't get characters like that anymore. Him, Peter O'Toole, Alex Higgins. Black Rain, yeah, that was Michael Douglas, wasn't it? That was a good film. I thought Legend was quite good. I quite enjoyed that. Okay, so we'll go with the answers now. It was the usual 50 questions, 5 rounds. I'll do them slowly. Lucy Hawkins going with Blade Runner. I'm almost tempted to put that on tonight after this quiz. Do you feel entertained? Yeah, he's done so many films. I quite enjoyed The Martian as well. It's quite an enjoyable film for 2 hours. Black Hawk Down, yeah. Okay, let's go with the answers then to the questions. Let's scroll to the top. Round number 1. So round number 1, we've just spoken about, and the director Ridley Scott. The answer for number 1 was, I said he did an advert in 1984, inspired by the George Orwell novel. You had to tell me what the product was, the company. It was Apple Macintosh. It was advertising. You get a chance to go on YouTube, check out the advert. It's a stunning advert, brilliant advert, released in 1984 with the introduction of Apple computers. So it was the Apple Macintosh. Number 2, the film released in 1977. It was a debut feature for Ridley Scott. It was The Duelists, was the film, with Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, and Albert Finney. The Duelists. Answer to number 2. Number 3, I said that Scott had received 3 Best Director Academy Award nominations. He's never won the Oscar for Best Director, but name the films he's been nominated for. Okay, so they were as follows. Thelma and Louise, the first nomination in 1991. Gladiator was the next one. I thought he'd won that, but I think it won Best Picture. That was the year 2000. And the last one was the year after. It was Black Hawk Down. Someone mentioned that as one of their favourites, and that was 2001. Okay, so number 4 was 2 answers. So a point for each on this one. Name the American actor who was deleted and replaced from the Ridley Scott film All the Money in the World. Kevin Spacey was written out of the film. They shot it with him, and they scrapped the film. They reshot it, and the other actor that was in it was Christopher Plummer, that played J. Paul Getty. So the 2 answers are Kevin Spacey, he was the actor written out of the film, and Christopher Plummer was the actor that replaced him. Number 5, 2007 Ridley Scott movie. I gave you a description, but it co-starred Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in the lead roles. The film was American Gangster, which I've yet to see. Number 6 was 2 answers. It was name the author of Blade Runner, the novelist, and the person that composed the score. So the novelist was Philip K. Dick, and the composer, who I mentioned earlier, was Vangelis. 7 was a tricky one. Be interested to see if any of you got this one. I gave you a description of a 1996 Ridley Scott film with Jeff Bridges in the lead role as Sheldon Skipper. The film, which I've not seen, was White Squall. Did anyone get that one? I thought that was one of the harder ones. The actor who plays the evil villain Darkness in Ridley Scott's 1985 film Legend, that was Tim Curry, who of course was in the Rocky Horror Show and originally played Pennywise the Clown. So Tim Curry for 8. Number 9 was Ridley Scott's brother. He directed films such as Top Gun, True Romance, Crimson Tide, the horror film The Hunger, and Beverly Hills Cop 2. It was Tony Scott. And lastly, number 10 was the actor who played Captain Dallas in Alien. The actor was Tom Skerritt. So Tom Skerritt is the answer for the final one in round number 1. So 10 questions there, the usual format. Ridley Scott, how did you fare? Any Ridley Scott experts out there? How did you get on with this round? There was a mix of tricky ones. Did anyone get the White Squall one? Yeah, that's a good question. With Blade Runner, which version? I think the final cut's probably the best version. I think the worst version was the original one with that terrible ending. And they used the sequences from the Shining, didn't they? At the end, some footage. Okay, so the extra points were just the additional answers. So if there were 2 additional answers, there's a point for each. Yeah, White Squall, I've heard it's quite good. How did everyone get on? What were your scores for this one? Anybody get full marks? Anybody get the Duelist? The Duelist? Not seen that one either. How did you get on in your Ridley Scott films? Any good scores? 11's a good score. 13 and 14, another good score from Mr. Harlequin. 2316. Philip Rolls with 5. We'll move on now to number 2. Got the Duelist, but not White Squall. Yeah, I remember White Squall coming out, but I didn't see it at the cinema. Kieran with a 9. Joe Adams, is that a 10 or 14? And Lucy Hawkins with an 8. Let's move on to number 2, the answer. And Gail with a 9. Okay, so round number two was the movie props. So number 1 was the rocking machine penis sculpture from a controversial film from the 1970s. It was Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. That's such a funny scene when they break into the woman's house and he plays around with that sculpture. Clockwork Orange for 1. Dirty Harry was 2. The prop was the Smith & Wesson or the Magnum 44. So Dirty Harry is the answer for 2. Number 3 was tricky. The nasal spray from a classic comedy from 1960. It was The Apartment. So The Apartment, Billy Wilder film for 3. Number 4 was the harmonica, played by a cowboy in the opening sequence from a 1968 Western. The Western was Once Upon a Time in the West by Sergio Leone. So Once Upon a Time in the West. Number 5, Gort's Helmet and Laser Ray from a 1950s famous sci-fi movie. Excuse me. It was The Day the Earth Stood Still. So The Day the Earth Stood Still is the answer to 5. Did anyone get 6? The Clock from the 1952 Western. It was High Noon with Gary Cooper. So High Noon for number 6. 1981 was the year I was born, but the bullwhip from their classic adventure film was Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Raiders of the Lost Ark is number 7. Number 8, I'd imagine you all got this. One of my favourite films as a kid was The Karate Kid. It was the bonsai tree from a 1984 movie. It was The Karate Kid. Number 9 was the clay pot on a spinning pottery wheel from a box office smash from 1990. The film was Ghost. So Ghost for number 9. And didn't they do a spin-off in The Naked Gun 2.5, didn't they? With Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley, didn't they? Sure they did. And lastly, number 10, Rita's Purse from a blue box in Rita's Purse from a brilliant, surreal, neo-noir mystery movie. It was Mulholland Drive, that brilliant David Lynch film. So the last answer for the movie props was Mulholland Drive. How did you all get on with this round? A couple of tricky ones in there. How did you do? Anyone get full marks for this one? 10, very, very good for Mr. Baseheart. Yeah, I might bring this one back. I quite like this round. So Jack M with a 6, 7 for Kieran, and a 6 for Chris. Gail Rogers with 8. Yeah, you're right. Respectable score. Joe Adams a 7. Zach Bowen a 6. Yeah, I like this one. Yeah, it's good fun. It's good looking them up as well because you kind of forget how prevalent some of these props are and how they kind of bring out the scene. Amanda Harris a 7. Okay, so round 3. What was round 3? Oh, this for me was the hardest round. The Brat Pack movies from the 80s. Okay, so a New York City journalist coined the phrase the Brat Pack for a 1985 New York Magazine cover story. The journalist was called David Bloom. B-L-U-M. Did anyone get that one? David Bloom was the answer for 1. I wouldn't have known this, but I thought I'd put it in because that's where the name was devised. Thought it was a good question to put in. David Bloom, number 1. Number 2, the film from 1985, Joel Schumacher, about college students struggling with adulthood. Don't we all struggle with it? St. Elmo's Fire is the film, which they did that song that came on the radio the other day. I can't think of the name of the guy who did it. So St. Elmo's Fire is 2. The year that the sex scandal involving Rob Lowe, when did that happen? It was 1988, so it's the end of the 80s decade. So 1988 for question 3. Number 4, I asked you to name the 8 core members considered to make up the Brat Pack. Could you name them all? So it was a point for each. And by mistake, opening my big mouth, I gave away 2 of them at the beginning. So the names are Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall. I wouldn't have known that one. Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwood, and Ali Sheedy. So Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwood, and Ali Sheedy. What happened to Anthony Michael Hall? Andrew McCarthy, what happened to him? Judd Nelson, not seen him for years. Molly Ringwood or Ali Sheedy? Love to know. Number 5 was John Hughes, who directed and wrote the movie The Breakfast Club from 1985. So John Hughes, the answer for number 5. Gave a description for 6 of a film, a Brat Pack comedy. It was about a girl's 16th birthday. She suffers every embarrassment possible. The film was called 16 Candles. So number 6, 16 Candles. Number 7 was a music one, and it was Suzanne Vega who performed the song Left of Center from the film Pretty in Pink. That's a good song, check it out. So Suzanne Vega for 7. Number 8 was the guitarist and composer who did the music for the Brat Pack crime film Blue City. And I mentioned he did the score for Paris, Texas. Great musician called Ry Cooder. So Ry Cooder, he's done loads of film soundtracks, did Crossroads, done a lot of stuff with the director Walter Hill, stunning musician and done his own albums. Number 9, the film that I gave the description of, which is supposedly the first Brat Pack film, is The Outsiders, that was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. So The Outsiders is 9. And number 10, probably the easiest one, it was another music question. It was the Scottish band Simple Minds that had the hit Don't You Forget About Me, which featured in The Breakfast Club from 1985. How did everyone get on with this one? I read somewhere that originally that song from The Breakfast Club, Don't You Forget About Me, was going to be done by, name escapes me. What's the guy who was the lead singer from Roxy Music? Oh, he's great. Brian Ferry, he was going to originally do the song, and then they opted for Simple Minds to do it, and they were a massive band in the 80s. Andrew McCarthy, now a director. Ah, that's interesting. John Parr, yeah, that came on the radio the other day on an 80s station I was listening to. Okay, so Zach did well on that one, 10. Chris did well on that one, he got a 10. Mr. Bassheart doing exceptionally well, and Jack M, 12 and 14. Kieran Nicholson did well with a 7. Joe Adams did well with 14. That's excellent. So some good scores on that one. I thought that was tricky, that round. Gail Rogers an 11. The person that recommended that round, are they playing tonight? I don't think they are, but it's a good little round to add. Okay, we'll move on to the answers for the next one. So movie quotes. It was just name the film with the line, the famous line. Number 1, I bet you all got this one. It's so iconic. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn was from Gone with the Wind, which came out in 1939. So it was Clark Gable delivering that line from Gone with the Wind, 1939. One of my favourite films of all time, this would be a desert island one. It's great on the big screen. Apocalypse Now, 1979. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. So it's Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. Number 3, Made It Ma, Top of the World, was the crime film with James Cagney. It was White Heat, which came out in 1949. So White Heat for number 3. Number 4 was Silence of the Lambs, was the line I read. That came out in 1991. So the answer for question 4 is Silence of the Lambs. Show Me the Money was 5, and that was Jerry Maguire. The year that came out, I didn't ask for the years, but it was 1996, if you're interested. I Want to Be Alone was 6. That was it Greta Garbo from Grand Hotel? That was way back in 1932. So Grand Hotel for number 6. Nice and easy. Houston, We Have a Problem. That was Apollo 13, 1995 that came out. So Apollo 13, number 7. Number 8, Greed, for a lack of a better word, is good. That was, is it Gordon Gekko? Michael Douglas from Wall Street, the Oliver Stone film, 1987. So Wall Street, number 8. They're Here was number 9. The Line, that was Poltergeist. Poltergeist from 1982. And lastly, number 10, Gentlemen, You Can't Fight in Here. This is the War Room. That was Dr. Strangelove, the Stanley Kubrick mad comedy. And that was released in 1964. So Dr. Strangelove, the last one, which cropped up, I think last week. We got to mention that film, talking about Stanley Kubrick films. How did everyone get on with that round? The famous lines. I might bring that one back again. That's always quite popular. What were your scores for this one? Jack M, sorry. Fell asleep at the wheel there. 7, a good score. Kieran, a good score. Kieran Nicholson with an 8. Joe Adams, another good score, an 8, high score. Zach Bowen, excellent again, 8. Gail Rogers seems to enjoy that round. She got an 8, which is good. Christopher Blackett, a really good score, 9. Which one did you think was the hardest of that round then, of those quotes? The first one was probably the easiest one, the Gone with the Wind one. Very iconic. Yeah, we'll move on to the last round in just a sec. 7, Lucy Hawkins. Watched Poltergeist last week. I haven't seen that one for donkey's years. Yeah, the Grand Hotel one, Amanda says. And in a minute, I'll just go with the last round, which I believe was Thrillers, wasn't it, for the last round? Okay, so we'll go with the answers for the final round. Again, this was a recommendation. Could you do a round on Thrillers? So the answer to question number 1, 10 questions again. The Francis Ford Coppola 1974 film with Gene Hackman was The Conversation. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. It's a very good film. The Conversation, the answer for number 1. Number 2 was the actor, the iconic actor who was in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. It was James Stewart. James Stewart for number 2. For number 3, I asked you to name the directors who made Blood Simple, which was their debut film from 1984. It was the Coen brothers. So the Coen brothers for number 3. Number 4 was the iconic Hollywood actor who played religious fanatic Harry Powell in Night of the Hunter from 1955. The actor was Robert Mitchum. So Robert Mitchum for 4. That's another really good film. Frank Sinatra was the person that played Major Bennett Marco in John Frankenheimer's excellent 1962 film, Manchurian Candidate. So it's Frank Sinatra. He had a pretty successful acting career. He was a pretty decent actor, in fairness. Number 6 was the hardest. Martin Scorsese directed the 1991 remake, which I think is great. But tell me who directed the 1962 version of Cape Fear. The director was called J. Lee Thompson. Did anyone get this one? That was probably one of the hardest questions of tonight's quiz. Number 7, the actress who played Evelyn Mulwray in Polanski's Chinatown opposite Jack Nicholson was Faye Dunaway. So Faye Dunaway for 7. Number 8, I gave away the answer. It was a world cinema. It was a Dutch film that was remade in 93. It was directed by George Sluzier. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The film is The Vanishing. So The Vanishing for number 8. Number 9 was a film made 3 years ago, called You Were Never Really Here. It's Lynn Ramsey, features Joaquin Phoenix. You Were Never Really Here is the answer to 9. And the director who made the film Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal is Denis Villeneuve. I think it's pronounced Denis Villeneuve. So Denis Villeneuve is the director for the last question number 50, which was Thrillers. So that was the final round. That's all 50 questions, all 50 answers. If you total up your scores, we'll find out how you did, all of you. How did you get on with Thrillers? Did you like this round or not so keen? Okay, so 4 for Jack. 10 out of 10 for Mr. Baseheart. That's a very good score. Lucy Hawkins got a 9 for this. Another good score. Christopher Blackett, 6. So Jack M got a 42 altogether, which is a good score. Joe Adams got a 9 for that round. Amanda Harrison, likes a good thriller. Shirley Cornish with a 4. Kieran with a 6. So totaling up, Joe Adams with a 48. That's a good score. Mr. Baseheart, a good score again, like last week, a 51. Zach Bowen, 38, scored overall. How did everyone find this week's quiz? Did you enjoy it or not so keen on this one? Lucy Hawkins with a 39. How did you find this quiz compared to last week's or previous ones? Did you enjoy it or not so keen? 39's not a bad score, in fairness. There were a lot of hard questions. I think for me that Brat Pack movie round, I wouldn't know half of those. Well, Mr. Baseheart is actually somebody that I work with in cinemas, and given away his true identity, and he's got a fantastic knowledge of film. Um, he knows a lot about obscure films, a lot of which I've never heard of, particularly a lot of B movies and films that you would call bad films that you would actually really enjoy. Yeah, he's got a fantastic knowledge. He's always teaching me a lot about cinema and new people. Yeah, 52 is good. Yeah, I tried to mix it up. I think it's good to kind of try some new stuff and old. Thanks, Zach. I like the suggestion you said about the best lockup. Sorry, the best lockdown films. Yeah, I'll try and think of some stuff he's weak on. Hmm. I'll see what I can muster up. I'll try my best. Yeah, he has got a yeah, Mr. Bayside. He has got an excellent knowledge of film. Always have some good conversations, boring one another. Yeah, the Brat Pack ones are hard. Okay, so we'll finish up in just a minute. I appreciate you all taking part. I've enjoyed this evening. It's been good fun. Before we finish, so I'm probably still going to be off work for probably about 5 weeks. Do you want me to carry on doing these every Friday night? And I think another question I'll ask is, as a film club, we don't know what we're going to do. After the lockdown, do you want us to carry on doing the quiz, or do you want us to finish? Maybe do it less than once a week? What are your thoughts? Some of you might say, we don't want this quiz anymore. We're bored of it. We've had enough. And Friday night's one of those nights as well where maybe you want to do something else when this all relaxes, the lockdown. I know on a Friday night, I like to come home, have a couple of beers, and I normally watch BBC Four. I like all the music stuff on a Friday night. Every Friday. No pressure there. Yeah, so Jay Gibbs, need to give him a shout out. He's the guy who came up with the idea of the movie props round, which I think is one of the best rounds we do. Okay, so we'll keep going, I think, for the lockdown period. It's certainly stimulating my mind, and I've enjoyed doing it, and I hope you enjoy it. More importantly, it's been a good laugh for me, and it's been enjoyable. But more importantly, I hope you enjoy it and get something out of it, and it's good fun. Yeah, maybe once a month would be good. We got some other volunteers with the cinema. Would you like it if maybe we change the hosts as well? I think it'd be nice to maybe have a new face and somebody different do it. Maybe one of the other volunteers who'll bring their knowledge or their personality rather than just seeing me blooming doing it every week. That might be quite nice. Props and taglines, yeah. Kevin Bacon, yeah, that's a good suggestion. Good actor. And lastly, yeah, so my questions were, after the lockdown, maybe do this once a month. And would you maybe like to see us get some of the other volunteers to maybe do the questions? How would you feel about that? No, you're biased, Jay. You know me. No, I appreciate. As I mentioned earlier on, I used to do a lot of live events, film screenings, and get guests in when I did a thing called Cinema years ago. But I've never ever done a YouTube channel. Never done YouTube ever. Set up a channel. Um, years and years, a few years back, I added a TV show that I used to present, but it was only on a made in Bristol network channel, which was a pretty bad station. It was, I'll probably get sued by them now for saying that. The good host, the hostess with the mostest. Yeah, my last question before we finish up was, it's always good to get people's suggestions of what they want to see for next week. What would be your recommendation for rounds or questions for next week? Oh, thanks, Amanda. Very nice of you. Yeah, what questions would you like to see? And in regard to content, I quite like doing the recommendations and asking you to give your opinions. But would you like me to do anything else? We've done desert island flicks, favorite films you take on a desert island. We picked a favorite director. We've done a favorite Ridley Scott film, favorite lockdown films. Would anyone like to see another feature? Cinema posters, how would that work? Would I have to, I could show an image maybe? Foreign films. We've done some world cinema. That was last week or the week before. Yeah, that's quite a good one. Guess the DVD cover or the poster. Oscar winners. Animals in films. That's quite interesting. Yeah, film stills. I got quite a lot of collection of posters and I got a lot of signatures. I can maybe do those. That could be quite good. Robots, sequels. Yeah, documentaries. British film I did do one week. Some interesting choices. I'll go back through those. And yeah, we'll try those for next week. Science fiction I did, that was last week. Sequels would be a good one. I hate sequels, I got to be honest. My favourite sequel, which I think is better than the original, is Godfather 2. But mainly, I'm not a big fan of sequels. Okay, so thanks for tuning in for this week. I hope you've all had a good week. It's very difficult times we're living in, and we all get good days and bad days, and sometimes maybe working during this period maybe in some ways is a good thing because it stimulates your mind and you can get your mind off things. But I hope everyone's in a good place mentally and physically. I must admit, this week I've had quite a good week. I find for me the lockdown's been quite a good thing because I've managed to spend more time with my family and thinking about more important things in life. I felt before this lockdown I was stuck in a routine of doing things and going places and doing the same thing day to day. So I'd finish a day's work and the first thing I'd do coming home would be popping the off license for a couple of beers and end up falling asleep on the sofa, and then it'd be back to Groundhog Day the next day. So I kind of enjoyed reminiscing and looking back at things and thinking about old times and memories. Pick a film and ask questions on it. Yeah. IMDb ratings is a good one. They're based in the home city of Bristol, where we're based. So yeah, for me, a lot of it has been like thinking about old times and memories. And oddly, yesterday, one of my big memories that I'll share with you, which is a silly little thing really, was my dad passed away a couple of years ago. He was diagnosed with dementia and was in a nursing home for a couple of years. But my old man was very much big into rock and roll. He loved 50s rock and roll. And as a kid, he dragged me along to a lot of gigs. He'd take me to see some quite big names, but I was only about 10 and 11, and you kind of don't appreciate these things. So I'd see people like the Everly Brothers, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis. But the one that stands out for me the most, and I was thinking about it the other night, was I'm a massive Chuck Berry fan. I've got all of his stuff on CD. I'm kind of a bit of an obsessive. And I was taken to see Chuck Berry when I was 11 at a venue here in Bristol called the Colston Hall. And I was thinking about it. I can still remember things about it. He only played an hour because he's got a reputation for being very tight-fisted with money. I can just remember him with his red Hawaiian shirt and this beautiful Gibson guitar. And it just had a massive impact on me, that gig. It wasn't the best gig I've ever been to, and the memories of it are a little bit faint, but it was kind of the first time I saw like an icon on stage that really had a massive kind of grab on me. And the music is, for me, is timeless. I've just always been a fan. And I think like when I have grandkids, it'd be nice to look around and say, yeah, I saw this guy live on stage. I was only a youngster. I was only 10, 11, but he was such a massive icon in popular music. So I was thinking a lot about that and some of the musicians I'd seen on stage and films I've watched at certain times. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. Thanks for everybody that's tuned in tonight. I really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone that subscribed to the channel. Most importantly, keep watching great films. It's always a great form of escapism, such a beautiful art form. And hopefully you'll tune in next week for the quiz, next Friday, same time, same place at 8:30 on here on the YouTube channel. If you want to drop any comments on here, please do so. The only thing I will say is, Jack M, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago that you did an interview with a famous film star, and I was interested. So just to let you know, I dropped you a message on your Facebook Messenger because you took part in the early Facebook quizzes. Hope you didn't mind. So just to let you know. Thanks along. Yeah, roll on next week. Hopefully the weather will still be good. Thanks again. And importantly, stay safe. And I'll see you next week. Thank you all. Bye for now. Take care and enjoy your weekend.